All right, everyone, welcome online. So we are going to start in just a few minutes. The guests arrived. It's a small city somewhere near to Berlin, and you'll get to know a little bit more about the session. There's a lot of community networking and so on going on. So it takes 5 minutes, so please stay tuned. I will be kickstarting the workshop. Not workshop, actually, it's a masterclass. We'll go through everything in detail about n8n and Replit. We'll build an observability dashboard. So you'll get to know more details in just a second. So please stay tuned.
We tried to launch our non-profit big signatures. We had the kickoff meeting. We got a transition into the lecture. So, just so everybody knows, we're also live streaming this event today. Here, the camera's up here, so don't worry, nobody's going to be on video unless you want to get some Aemal. I'm going to take some pictures with my camera as well for our blog. If you don't want to be seen, just raise your hand, and then I'll make sure not to take pictures with you on them. Okay, everybody has consented by not disagreeing. Very nice. And And you let me know if I should start talking with the introduction.
Yep, you can do that.
Camera's like pointing into the camera.
Yeah, it's. Yeah.
It only looks at you though, right?
And it looks at me. If you wanna.
You can just swing it over. I want to be on live stream. Hey everybody, welcome to Werder. It's good to see you. I'm Tim. I'm from the KI Club Werder, and we're here today to talk about AI. So welcome to beautiful Werder, to everybody here in the audience. Thank you for making the long trip out. It was definitely, with the weather and all, it's really good to see that we almost filled every seat here, which is really great. Come back again when we have good weather in the spring. There's a big Blütenfest, a big flower power party. You can come and venture in our courtyard, in our gardens, and drink scrumptious wine and eat lots of good food. So enough advertising about Werder. Of course, I'm a local patriot, so I have to promote our local city here. So what's our mission here? I guess you can't see it on the live stream, but we founded about a year ago, and our mission was to have a place where people in Werder can get together and talk about AI. Because, of course, we like coming to Berlin with all the cool people there, but you know what? I got a family. I don't got time to go over there. So I wanted to have something locally where I can actually meet with cool people and talk about AI. And it's actually been happening for more than a year, and we got a lot of momentum going, so that we're now in the process of starting a nonprofit, a Verein here, to have a more structure around it and focus on AI education. So yeah, building the AI literacy for schools and also for the community in the heart of Brandenburg. I like how you wrote that. That was nice. A little advertising for our next event before we dive in now is on the 17th of March. We're going to talk about news from the Paris AI Safety Conference with Jobst. Raise your hand so everybody can see you. Yeah, our next speaker. Looking forward to that. But without much further ado, let's talk about supporting the club. Today is free. It's of course free for everybody on streaming, and it's free for everybody here as well. We have a little tin can over there where you can throw in a few euros just to support Halle 36, which is the Verein that owns this building, and we just pay them a little bit of money for rent, electricity, and to be able to use this space. So we're very grateful for them. I have some food and snacks as well. Just serve yourself. Sorry, guys, not for you. And with that, we're going to go into tonight's session. It's going to be structured a little bit different. Usually we have like a round table, and then everybody talks about what they're doing with AI. Since we're this many people, we're going to skip that part and go right into the lecture. But after the lecture, which is about 1 hour, we're going to have time for networking. And we got this space until 10 p.m., so that's a lot of time for networking. We'll see how much stamina we have. But tonight we're going to talk with Aemal about enterprise n8n observability, how to build robust, observable AI-powered automations that scale in an enterprise environment. And so, Aemal, thank you so much, and welcome to KI Club Werder.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Wonderful. All right.
Here is the plug, my man.
Thank you. I will quickly plug this thing in. We're gonna start as soon as the display goes on and we know that it works. There we go. Loading. Nice. I need to just change the display sources, and then we are good to go. Alrighty, so apparently it works. We'll check the live stream in just a minute. Hi everyone, my name is Aemal. I'm a software engineer. I've been building software for the past 24 years. And here we are. I'm finding myself in an amazing era to build software. Because for building software, you don't need to go to a university. All you need to do is basically know one of the 90 languages that LLMs speak, and then you can vibe code the hell out of anything you want, including a project called OpenClaw, called many more things, but OpenClaw the last one. and then all the tech giants are calling him personally on his phone, trying to persuade him to join their club, and finally he sells it for a lot of money, and then that is entirely vibe coded project. And if that can be seriously done, why not can it be done for enterprises? And that's where I come in. I'm a CTO and co-founder of a company called Avenai. We are a $10 million funded company, but only 6 months old company. So we started this literally last quarter of last year, and less than 6 months old company. We secured some funding, and also the revenues are going good, and we're scaling, we're hiring. I'm not saying that to brag, but I'm saying that as an humble reminder that now anyone can be builders and anyone can build profitable companies. That Silicon Valley consensus in the Silicon Valley perspective of like one-man company, $1 billion company, a unicorn, a one-man company. Now they're talking about a 0-person company, like only AI agents running it. And literally from our neighborhood, Austria, a dude goes on this, builds OpenClaw, and that's amazing. And that should be an inspiration for all of us here in this room and anyone watching live. We have 4 people watching live right now, and it's amazing. That's possible. Let's do that. And today in this 1-hour masterclass, I will show you guys that it is possible. What I'm going to show is really advanced level n8n, advanced level vibe coding. But in the process, what I will show you is a promise, a hope that yes, we can, regardless of our background, whether you're coming from software engineering or from product design, from any engineering or non-engineering background, you can build. And you can build really cool things, especially if you come from this background where the problem is your expertise, or the problem area is your expertise. For example, you're a tax advisor and you have been using Dativ for a long time and you want to automate something around Dativ, and you get to know a little bit of vibe coding. And I have like a 10-month-old vibe coding crash course. Before it became so cool, I saw this wave coming in, and I locked myself in a room. Actually, I took my son's bedroom, I rearranged the furniture, and I built it. Let's actually quickly go and see that, what I did in there, and how that vibe coding crash course looks like, which is right now a little bit obsolete, I would say. But if you go to my YouTube channel, I'll share the YouTube with you guys later on. But those who are watching right now live, there we go, 9 people now. So we're increasing the live audience. And then you go to the playlist, you'll see something here, Vibe Coding 101 Crash Course, which is pretty much something that I did it in my son's bedroom. And I saw this thing coming in, like, this is my son's bedroom in a corner. I kind of like put together all those things to just make something. And that's like 9 months old course. Now I'm working, since you can imagine, like being like super busy with 2 kids and in a company that's so young and needs a lot of attention. I cannot find time, therefore I'm doing this masterclass, but there will be a crash course of this version of this coming out where I will put together n8n and Replit. Another course that you can also already utilize around 2 concepts, n8n and vibe coding, 60 lectures long. It's this one, n8n Crash Course. It has 57 lectures. All of my content, all of my courses are 100% free. I have a kind of like a, what do you call it, a North Star or a motivation that I do. All of my content is free for that reason. It's that 16-year-old version of myself when I started, and I want to educate as many million 16-year-olds out there in the world who are just about to find a world in a totally different place than how we found it. And that's why I'm doing all my educational content for free. And as a part of that, I'm also an n8n ambassador. That means I go around the world and teach n8n to the world. And the numbers are really big. That's my QR code for my LinkedIn if you want to connect with me. So I go every Wednesday in a new country, and I teach a room full of around 80 people who are literally new to n8n, and they want to just start their automation journey. And the numbers are big. Only in 8-9 months, I taught n8n and automation to around 8,000 people, 3,000 of them in person. Like I met them in person, and I traveled around the world. Luckily, tomorrow it's Wednesday. It's going to be in Frankfurt, and the following week it's going to be in Berlin. But usually it's not that easy. It's around the world, and we're a multinational company, Avenai, and we're doing it in Europe and as well in North America and European cities. I'm covering. My colleagues are covering the North American ones. What's that picture here that I have in place so that you can kind of like listen to someone who, why should you listen to me for the next hour? That picture is telling you. I have a picture to show you guys, and I know how many hands will go up when I show you this picture, and if you know it, it's because of the age. So by show of hands, who knows this picture? This is David Hasselhoff. This is a 1980s TV series, and this guy, this series is picturing this car called Kit, and I was building Voice Kit, this inspired by Kit. I'm building a software that I don't know. It's called AI Agent, but I'm building it. It has these tools attached to a voice interface, and it's the time when I stumble upon n8n, and I really go deep into this. So you can ask me really any difficult question in n8n. I hope I will be able to answer it because I've been using it for the past 3 years really intensively, really advanced level. And if I cannot answer it, I will take it home with me. Since we are an n8n expert company, expert partner, we have other n8n expert engineers in our company. I'll come back with an answer for you. So please do feel free during the networking session, ask me anything about n8n. As I said, like we're around the world, going across Europe and US and delivering these workshops in association with n8n. We're an official partner, and this is an official n8n workshop that we're doing. If you're just starting in n8n, that's a tutorial series you can use to basically learn the very basics, the first mile of n8n, and you'll learn what is a node, what is a what, and so on. For the next hour, perhaps it's not the right content for you to, if you're just starting n8n, to follow along, because it's really a very edge corner of n8n I want to show. And if you finish this tutorial series, then you can consume this one, n8n Builder session. These two are both official n8n content that we are delivering around the world as workshop content. And what basically you see here is a little bit advanced, an intermediate level, where you can actually build automation that scales, more architectural content, more MCPs and AI agent node in a more advanced level, and so on and so forth. And even knowing how to read and write JSON if you don't know how to write JSON. That's the only slides I had. Now I'm switching to build mode. For the rest of the time, we'll be building. No slides, I promise. So what are we going to build? We're going to build a dashboard, and that dashboard is coming from some data from n8n. Before we go on, I would like to show you guys a few corners of n8n, considering the fact that some of you might, maybe by show of hands, who have never used n8n before? Okay, not so many. By show of hands, who have used n8n and made at least 10 workflows? Nice, so that's good. So those people who didn't raise in both cases their hands, either they're really good in n8n or they build only 2 n8n workflows, which in both cases it's so fine. So I will give you guys a few corners of n8n, and then I'll deep dive into what I'm going to build for the next things. As I said, it's just a build session, and there isn't going to be any more slides. So we'll spend more time in code and inside this build thing and so on. So n8n is this canvas where you can build things. If you, by show of hands, who is a programmer or a developer or an engineer? Okay, most of our room. Vibe coding counts, yes. In that case, like if I say who's a vibe coder, everybody should raise their hands because they just need to know one of the 90 languages of the world. This is vibe kidding. And this is a vibe coding platform that I built for my 7-year-old son. It goes like this. You open it. It's kind of like a development environment, and then you can give permission. Can you please create a tic-tac-toe game? And my son speaks to the microphone, and for the matter of fact, this can work in all of those 90 languages. So if I ask if you're a programmer, everybody should raise their hand only if they know how to speak one of those 99 plus languages. Yeah, this is crazy. What's possible today with building these things is crazy. And my son built like literally 3D games with this, and he keeps coming every day telling me that, hey, Papa, can you add this feature? Can you add that feature? A new product manager. I can wait for this Claude code to finish. Until then, if I can extrapolate on what we are going to build, is basically we will build a very simple n8n workflow on one side. There we go. The tic-tac-toe game is done, and it was just built by simply talking to the microphone, and that's the future of kids building games and things like that. So anyways, let's go back to n8n and try to see a few corners of this, build a nice little workflow, and then go into Replit and then build that dashboard that basically reads the things inside n8n. So when you go to n8n, I'm going to give you guys a quick intro of n8n for the next 5 minutes on this cloud version of n8n. And then we're going to switch to that advanced version, and then we build this basic thing that's called hooks. You'll get to know what is a hook. Just for those of you who know what is a webhook, it's not a webhook that we are going to touch. It's something else. It's called hooks. It's a little bit advanced topic, and we get to know that into that corner in just a bit. All right, so let me quickly check one small thing, and then we go. All right. So I'm signing into my cloud n8n, and I will do only one simple thing. I will create an n8n workflow that has one small thing, very simple thing, that takes a click. It's a trigger. I'm not teaching n8n how to use it. I'm going to fast forward and build something. There is an API that already has some data. I'm going to fetch this data into n8n using an HTTP request node. And if I do that, you can see that the data arrived in n8n. Now, there is something I can do with this. I can do a lot of things. I can put an if condition. I can send emails. I can do a whole lot of things. But for the sake of my example, I already have something that I can take it and then articulate and then give you guys an idea of why do we need this observability in the first place. If you see the execution, you'll see that there's a lot of data flowing in here. There's a lot of this JSON data flowing here. And if we pick this URL of the execution thingy, it has a URL that is pretty much predictable. So this part is something called a workflow ID. This part is called an execution ID. If you notice here, this ID and this ID, they both are the same. 22.7, 2022.7. And this URL itself contains a lot of information. When a workflow fails, you basically need that observability. You need to go to that particular execution workflow and then do something about that, and then debug it, and then find it. Now, if I show you one of the n8n workflows that is actually fueling one of the voice AI agents that I'm using, it looks like this. There's a lot of things going on, and then the logs of this can be really, really nasty. It can have like a lot of sub things. For example, another one is if I show you, just to kind of like put your head around the complexity of these nodes and the necessity of this kind of an observability tool around them. is really, really crucial when it comes to these really advanced corners of n8n. This is another n8n workflow. So if I quickly put these two things together and explain what these two in combination do with each other, it goes like this. So on the right side, you see there is workflow 1, and then all the way here, workflow 11. So these 11 so-called sub-workflows are being utilized by another AI agent that is the sub AI agent workflow, and then they're calling it as a tool calling one of these workflows. Now, when you have so many workflows on a canvas, and then you try to evaluate what is going on in the execution tab, you very quickly lose a track of the problems that are occurring in your workflow. And you need a kind of like bird eye view on everything that's happening. And how can you do that? There are a few ways to do it. Before I go and show you this hooks way, hooks is basically, as I said earlier, it's a different feature called hooks. I'll go in and explain pretty much 15 minutes of the lecture will be around this hooks only. But before I go there, there's another way that you can do it. I'll explain that, and then we'll come back to this particular solution. All right, so that way is called execution n8n work. n8n. Let's say if we go back to that simple example. You can let me put a set node in here, and when I execute the previous nodes in this schema, you can create like literally you can have access to all these so-called variables in context. This particular thing in n8n is already so rich. If you expand it, you will see quite a bit of information here that is already in a good a good amount of information that you have there. For example, what you see here is the execution ID, the ID that was in the URL that I was showing, and then you have the workflow ID. That's something that you can predictively create that URL so you can go directly to that particular execution that happened, and so on and so forth. So there are vars. You can define variables in one side of the n8n workflow, and then you can read it on the other side, and so on and so forth. So basically, when you create your workflows, no matter how complex your workflows get, you have access to the execution data in there. Another solution is the n8n nodes, where you can do a lot of things with n8n. You can get an execution, you can get many executions, and so on and so forth. So you can literally, inside an n8n workflow, you can create a so-called sub-workflow, and then inside that sub-workflow, you can get all the data of the execution and then pass it and then do a lot of things about that. So for example, here, if I get an execution, you'll see it's looking for an execution ID. And as I mentioned earlier, there is an execution ID here setting. If I go in and feed this into this node, you will see that it will give me the execution data of that particular ID. So I need to make sure I have my API keys set up properly here. And you can set your execution, your API keys from right here. This is not a part of the workflow or the part of the way that I want to explain, but I want to show you that there are other ways that you can do that as well. So I'm going to delete this API key just right now. Somebody please remind me to delete it, otherwise I don't want to see someone playing around with my n8n. So if I quickly do this, then you can see that now, this API base URL. So I can put this base URL here, and then I can connect to my n8n instance through that API key. And then since this API key has access to my n8n instance, it can go in and fetch all the data for me from there. Right now, we need to ignore it because I'm afraid that that API key is going to be used. It's live streamed, and there are at least some people watching, and they don't want to mess around with my API keys. anyway, so there are these ways to do this. It's a very simple and very straightforward way to uh, to create this. But how can I delete my API key? I should see a delete button here. There we go. Fingers crossed nobody deleted all my workflows. Anyways, but there's another solution for this, especially for self-hosted solutions. Now, what's the problem with this approach? The problem with this approach is that you need to have this little this little node always inside a workflow in order to run. Or you can create another workflow. I'm pseudo coding, if you know this term. I'm not creating the code that runs, but I'm explaining ideas by writing code, or pseudo flogramming, so to say. You can do another thing, that you can create a schedule trigger, and then inside a schedule trigger, you can say that, hey, every single hour run, and then do this thing. This thing is that you use this n8n node, and then you get many executions and many workflows, and then you use Supabase, and then you insert rows or create row and do things like this. This is possible. You can do this. But the problem is that you only know your observability lenses only on that interval that you set here. If you set it every hour, you pay per execution. So every hour you pay one execution. If you make it every minute, you do get observability close enough to your 5 minutes or 1 minute, but you pay a lot more to n8n as license fees. This approach that I'm going to tell you guys in just a minute is a way that will take you to like millisecond level. And it only happens when an execution happens. So it's pretty much a way that enterprises, big enterprises, like literally tens of thousands of employees kind of enterprises, do really need this kind of an n8n observability element. Now let's go in and spin off an n8n instance in our local instance, okay? So we have this, let me quickly see, where did I put that?
In the matrix.
Matrix. Let's find ourselves in the matrix. I created a folder here. Okay, so what we're gonna do is, I have repositories for this. I'll share it at the end of the video, but for now, let's stay focused in building one repository at a time. I'll create two repositories, two GitHub repositories. So what I'm building now in the next 30 minutes or 45 minutes, maybe we'll use another 10 minutes of this slot just to make sure that we go through the, yeah, we have plenty of time. So I will create two repositories. One is the backend side of it, one is the front end side of it. So the first thing I'm going to create is the front end, sorry, the backend. Let's make that. So I will create an n8n instance. So it's the n8n backend basically I'm creating. So in here, I'm going to use cursor. I also use gravity, but for this I'm just going to use cursor to make the point. So what I need here is not so much of vibe coding for now. I just need an editor so that I can bring some code from my other screen and make it easy and quick for you guys. And this is all inside the n8n repository that I'm gonna, sorry, GitHub repository that I'm gonna share with you guys. There are some variables here that we'll get to know and do. We will have a Supabase account, so therefore the n8n environment already has some variables. Let's be tidy and clean to have all the git ignore files in place. And this is basically the YAML file to spin off a very simple n8n instance that has only one thing in here, that is the hooks. That's a volume that is mounted in here that we'll get to know in just a second. And then I have two more files in the GitHub repository that you'll get a very detailed instruction of how to use this project when you're spinning it off for yourself. That basically explains everything. I'll explain this architecture diagram on a drawing pad in just a second. and you can literally go through this and then understand how the whole concept works behind the scenes, and also a full schema of all the tables that we need for the Supabase instance. But the most important thing in here is this folder called hooks. And then inside that folder, I have a JavaScript file that is being called by n8n whenever I spin off this n8n instance, and you'll see that in just a second. What does it do? It does one simple thing. For those of you who are not programmers, I will try to explain it in plain English so that you understand what it does behind the scenes, but this basic simple JavaScript that does one thing. It has access to my Supabase. I will go and show you guys the Supabase in just a second. And then it has one function that I can call, and I can pass some data. And that data is coming from n8n. When it comes from the n8n, in one of those events, whenever something happens, and that something is whenever n8n got ready, or whenever things happen on a workflow. What can happen in a workflow? A workflow can get activated, a workflow can be created, a workflow can be updated. The moment the workflow is executed, but pre-execution. Why this one is very important event that we can listen to? Because if we want to put an observability check on if a workflow contains, let's say, an HTTP request node without any authentication, we're going to decline it. So in here, you can do that. Or post-execution, that can have all the data that the n8n workflow produced, which is our focus area. You can see there is a little bit code in here. What does this code do? It basically looks at this entire workflow data in here. This is basically a variable that contains the entire JavaScript object notation, the JSON, that an n8n workflow produces. Like literally all of that JSON that we saw earlier on this workflow in here. So this workflow ran, and we generated these workflows, and these workflows contains these data, and this is the data that we are interested in, or whatever data that this n8n workflow generates, including those errors. So for example, this one gave an error. I'm interested in that error, and I want to see that on my n8n workflow. So let's go and observe that particular thing. So it basically pulls some data from this object, and then it calculates the amount of time it took for that workflow to run, and then it prepares a bunch of data set. It's basically preparing a huge data set that can be saved inside the Supabase that we're going to hook in just a second. And for more observability purpose, it also logs it in the console. So in the Docker container or in the server, wherever you're running it, you can go in and see your execution logs that's happening. And then it's calling that function that I showed earlier. And that function is basically doing one thing, which is literally calling it and storing it inside Supabase. That's it. So this is, please go ahead.
What is Supabase, a vector database? Or?
It's storing it inside a SQL database. It's a table. We'll go into Supabase in just a minute now.
Okay.
Yeah. So what is in that Supabase table that it stores it? And then I'll run it and show it as well. So in the Supabase instance, I believe I deleted that. So let's start from very, let's call it Supabase n8n dashboard. We create an instance on our Supabase server. Create this new project. Let's generate that. All right. So it's going to take a few seconds before it is ready, this instance. Until then, I will give a little bit more context to this project to give a little bit more clarity on what's going to happen next. So I have created these little things in here and I have a Docker container running in here, which is pretty much Docker daemon running in here, which is pretty much empty right now, doesn't have any containers running in it. And in this Docker compose file should be able to spin off this for me. So if I just do this Docker compose up, it should create the image, and then it should spin off this container. There you go, it's running. And then it should give me an n8n instance, which it did. Now, in this n8n instance, I'm going to create an account. Okay. Now, let's fill this quickly. Okay. Now, I have pretty much an n8n, a vanilla n8n instance running right now on my local host. You can see here it's a local host, and I can do things the way I did it previously on the cloud version. I can put this trigger. I can do an HTTP request node that can go in and bring things from this URL. And when it brings it, it generates a context. So it generated an execution context. And my plan is to literally get all of that and then put it inside the n8n, this Supabase database that we have created. But if I go to this, the terminal of this particular workflow, this particular n8n instance, you will see certain things right now. You can see that the data has been logged there. This data is exactly the data that we logged inside that JavaScript file. So every single time when I execute, that JavaScript file is going to run. It keeps running and keeps running. Right now, it's going to give an error. The reason is because these environment variables are from my old project. It's not going to work. I need to provide this data in order for this JavaScript file connect with my Supabase, because I just created the Supabase. And it's going to pump data to Supabase as soon as an n8n workflow runs. So every single time an n8n workflow runs, it takes the data and then it pumps it to that Supabase. Now let's go to that. So probably my Supabase is ready now, and I already have this schema in place. I will copy and paste this entire schema in here. And if I run it, it should create a few tables for me. And there we go. It created this table called n8n execution. We'll enable row level security in here. There we go. It created a table containing these execution ID, workflow name, status, finished, and so on and so forth. It has quite a bit of these columns in here. That, for right now, just to keep it short, I will just ignore seeing that in that detail. Okay, now what do I need to do next? I need to get these two basic environment variables from my Supabase. Let's go get that. So the first thing I need to do is I get the base URL of my Supabase. That is in the general. Where is that? If someone knows it, shout out. It's the base URL of my, I think it's in here. Data API here. So that is my base URL. I paste the Supabase base URL here. And then I need to get my n8n, is it n8n? Service key, service secret key, Supabase service key. So let's go get that one. So service role secret key. I'm gonna move it to the other screen to make sure that I don't share it online. Otherwise, my Supabase build could go insane. And this one can also go here. Okay. Now, bringing it back to this screen, I have created the environment variable. If the thing worked very well, what I expect is the tables needs to be filled the moment I run an n8n execution. It also makes sense that we restart our container. So let's go quickly do that. Docker compose down and up again. So now if I go to my n8n workflow on that localhost instance, and if I run it, it's still alive, that's good. If I execute this one workflow, it ran. The Docker log should show me what happened inside in here. This log, the execution ID number 2, should have been stored inside this table if everything worked fine. And voila, there's the data coming in here. So this data was stored the minute the execution happened. This is much better than pulling data from the n8n node. You can see now it took 279 milliseconds. If we go to that workflow, it took 284 milliseconds. Yes, the timestamp calculation on JavaScript side was a few milliseconds back and forth, but I don't know which one is right, the one in n8n dashboard or in our dashboard, but that doesn't matter. What matters is this one, the ID of this, which is also 2 here, as you can see here, the execution ID. And one more thing is important, this workflow ID. Why? Because if I showed you guys this URL in the start, that we need to predictably generate that one URL. And that's 6B OT or 0T, and that is not so much visible here, but it's in the URL 6B 0T. So we got literally every single piece of this URL that we can regenerate, both this ID and this number. So that means we can create on our dashboard. In just a minute, I'm going to switch to Replit. Since we already got the data, I can switch to Replit and then tell Replit, hey, Mr. Replit, please go ahead and build this thing for me, this dashboard. I don't know how the outcome is going to look like. You're very good in vibe coding. Maybe we can prompt it together, and then we'll build a Next.js app from the get-go. We're done from the n8n side of it. So basically from the back-end side of it. Now we're going to do the front-end side. Any questions so far for the n8n side of it? Yes.
Yes, due to me coming late. What are we building here? So this
We're building an observability dashboard for n8n. So basically every single thing that we're seeing inside this n8n workflow, all the data that goes through n8n workflow, we are building a dashboard that shows that data, like how many workflows failed, how many workflows succeeded, the data of that, and a link that you can click it, and then it can go directly to this execution context of that workflow. Any other question?
Are there already existing monitoring integrations for Splunk or Grafana, for
Yeah,
example?
you can do that. You can snap a Grafana on the top of this, yes.
Is there an already existing integration, or do I have to write it on my own? Or?
No, you can do that. In the Enterprise Edition, you have a stream of logs that you can send, and then you can sort anywhere, and then you can snap a Grafana dashboard on the top of it. Yes. Yes, you can create Prometheus. Yeah, you can do a lot of observability. But this is kind of like the very edge case of this that I'm showing.
I mean, if you want to customize it, and things like
exactly.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Any other question relates to n8n and everything we covered so far? One more question, and I go to the front end. No? Wonderful. Then let's go to the Replit side of it. So if you don't know what's Replit, Replit is a vibe coding platform. By show of hand, who used Replit before? Nice, a lot of people. You can shout out by how many months have you been using it so far?
Too many.
2 months? Anyone more than 2 months?
Yeah, I used it years ago.
Years. Yeah,
But it changed a lot. So
that's my perspective as well. How many years ago did you use
I
it?
used it when they actually trained their own models yet, like 2 or 3 years ago.
Oh, 2-3 years ago. You must have used it.
I mean, I've used it. You wouldn't call it used it. I logged in once or twice, maybe like 2020 or 20.
Okay, 2020. Okay,
Then I started vibe coding end of 24.
Yeah. By the way, Tim is the business angel of Replit, so pretty cool that you trusted the train pretty early on. I have been using Replit. I have to find out. Oh, this session is expired. I have to log in. It takes long enough. But in the n8n podcast, I was invited as a guest in the n8n podcast. I pulled that email and showed it. I used to teach in a coding school, and I used Replit in 2018, 2019, or sometimes because it was just an alternative to Code Sandbox, if you guys remember this platform, or CodePen.io. I don't know if CodePen still exists, but it was like an online code editor. And then once they injected AI in it, it exploded. Now the graph of revenue, investment, everything goes like upwards like this. Anyways, so it's like Lovable. It's like
This
yeah.
would be my question. How does it compare to other vibe coding apps?
I will cover some parts in Replit
like
when I'm comparing. Yeah.
5 and things like that. Okay.
I will cover some parts in that. Yeah. So Replit starts with this front end that is pretty much a text box where you can build projects. And once I start building this project further, I will explain some corners of Replit. But what we are going to build, we're going to build something that is going to read data from this table structure. Okay, so I'm going to copy the entire schema, and I will come here and paste it here, and I will copy the entire README to give the agent a little bit of a context and paste it here. And then I'll turn on my microphone and I speak to the microphone for as long as I can. And my dictation tool is failing me now. Let's go in and just type it. So I will say, can you please make a Next.js application for the attached schema and get some more context of what is this Supabase table contain from the README file that I have attached. I would like you to use AgGrid. AgGrid is an NPM package. It comes from Angular world, but also it's very good. I think we're going to use the community node. But it has a very, very interesting data table. So a table that we're going to use, and it looks like this. And we'll show all our n8n workflows in there. It has a filter and so on and so forth. So it looks like this. So our UI should end up looking something like this. Therefore, I'm prompting this to use AgGrid. Add all the columns of the table that you can get from the schema, and make a dashboard out of the data that you can accumulate. We'll build a few more features as soon as it spins off that bare bone of this. Make sure that you use the UI component called Eero UI. For those of you who do not know what is a UI component, in React, I've been writing React for some 9-10 years now, JavaScript for 17 years. In React, there's a thing used to call Next UI. Now it's called Eero UI. It's a very nice component library. I'd like to quickly show you guys what is there for in one just simple example. For example, checkbox. And if you know ShadCN, this is also a very nice component library. I'll pick the checkbox in here as well and put these two side by side and show you one small little example of this. That why do I like this one and not the other one? And perhaps you might like it as well. This is just an example of a checkbox, but this goes across all the components that Eero UI has and ShadCN do not. And another good thing is that you can combine them together. So you can get the best of both worlds. And this will make you a better vibe coder when you know these principles that usually full stack engineers like myself have already used it in the old school way of building code or writing code, and now in the new school way of like giving the right pointers to your AI agent to write the code. So for example, here you see I'm checking it. You see this little animation? That comes off the shelf from the component library. And here in ShadCN, it doesn't have that animation. And those little tiny details make your application shine when you build it using the right tools. Formerly known as Next UI. And make sure it looks like an enterprise-ready application, i.e., no dark mode, and keep everything in light mode and nice colors, mostly blue and white. We'll prompt it more because now this prompting is going to take some time. During this time, I can appreciate some questions. Let me see if there is any question. You can also raise your hand, but I'll appreciate any questions coming from the room first, and then we'll come. If there's no questions, then we'll come to this one. I will see how many people are we online, and also quickly do a tech check on the voice quality of the online stream. So we are 9 people watching online. Nice. First, and then we'll come. Wonderful. The voice is okay. Everything is okay. Please, there's a question coming from the room.
The workflows generate images, videos, stuff like that, binary data. Will those also get pulled into a database?
So you could do that. Whatever workflow that generates binary data, that data sits somewhere else. It doesn't sit inside the workflow. The workflow only contains the metadata, the JSON of that. For example, if it's an image, it doesn't sit inside n8n workflow. It sits somewhere on a binary storage, on a S3 bucket, or on a binary storage, and it gets a URL, maybe a signed URL. And then you take the signed URL, and then you fetch it from there, and then you can store it somewhere on your, let's say, Firebase storage, or on your Supabase storage, or on any other storage that you have. So basically caching it, binary upload, binary download, binary upload. Yeah. And you can enhance this dashboard to also store the binary data from there. All right, so it's asking me for those 2 secret keys. Let me provide that for this dashboard so that it can connect to it. And then I'll take more questions. So the first one it's asking for is that secret that I don't want to show you guys. And you guys can see it now in asterisks and the base URL. Continue. Okay. Any other question?
On n8n, how many business connectors do you have to integrate with enterprise?
So n8n right now has.
Compare that to Camunda or to Power Automate. Is it easier to use n8n? What is its big advantage there?
So the n8n ecosystem currently has 1,000+ connectors, or so-called nodes. You can create a custom node, and you can also create an HTTP request. We call this as a Swiss knife of n8n that can connect and like integrate any system to any system. And the community nodes are pretty much a lot more than that 1,000. Now, comparing it with Power Automate or Camunda, Camunda I think is pretty much limited number of connections compared to Microsoft Power Automate. In those scenarios, the configurability, the self-hosted version, the open source nature of this is the winner. So if I show you guys quickly, only OpenClaw would beat this 180,000 OpenClaw GitHub stars, but this has a very, very strong community, 74,000 GitHub stars. This is way more than TypeScript, way more than React, way more than all the other projects that I know at least. For example, TypeScript has 106,000 GitHub stars or 8,000 GitHub stars. Another good thing is it's open source. It's a project that has been built over 6.5 years, and in a time when there was no vibe coding and human brain was used here, so it's precious, but it's very configurable. Like this entire show that I'm right now giving is that very edge corner of this configurability of this, that you can configure this to the best level that you can. And now, comparing this with, let's say, Camunda or Make.com or Lindy or Relevance AI or Power Automate, all of those are off-the-shelf commercial SaaS software. This is also SaaS, but it sits on your own infrastructure. You pay to n8n as license fees, but it sits on your own infrastructure. The code is cloned and on your own infrastructure. Therefore, it can be governed however you wish. Like the fact that the code runs inside your infrastructure, inside your cloud or inside your bare metal, and the fact that you have 100% control on the data, like literally put it around a VPN and then the data never leaves your network and nothing comes back inside. This attribute of n8n is the biggest winner when it comes to large enterprise organizations adopting n8n. And that's why right now n8n is being adopted by a lot of large organizations. All right, Replit is going to take some time before it stops thinking. So you can see in this corner, it's still working on it. So we have plenty of time for Q&A. Yes, please.
Is there any difference from I'm sorry,
No worries.
from using Replit to anti-gravity, for example?
Oh, I see. So the Replit is fully integrated. Good question. It brings me to those corners of Replit that I want to show. So anti-gravity is an IDE more for basically developers. So it's like Cursor. It has this file structure here. You can open files here. You can see your agents running in here. But in this case, Replit, in case of anti-gravity, when you finish your project, you need to deploy it somewhere. You need a domain name. You need a GitHub repository where you can host things. Well, you need it for Replit as well, but the domain name, the hosting, the CI/CD pipelines, and so on are all integrated inside one web application in case of Replit. So for example, here, if I add a new tab, it's working in the background, but I want to show you guys a few features of this. If I go to the console, you'll see if you're a web developer or you come from that world, you'll see exactly what we see in here in our, literally on our console, but inside the web. And that makes it super easy to work with. For example, you can see here, you can integrate a GitHub repository with this. Off the shelf, you can literally move everything from here to GitHub. Very similar to Lovable approach, but with this console, having this access to console is the best that you can do. So here you have a shell that if I do all my Linux commands, you can see it's just a Linux machine. It's nothing else. It's just a span off a Linux machine for me. It's using Vite or Vite, however you call it, the package manager for, and it's just basically the entire web development industry encapsulated inside a container on the server, and then I'm accessing it from the front end. So it's making my life much easier as a web developer, or with this new term that's a lot of people are talking about, this forward deployed engineer, FDE, that I kind of like spin off an application, including having domain names and authentication and everything, and yet have full control over the code base and the terminal. And I can export all the content of this inside a GitHub repository, and then I can see things happening from there. So that's the difference between anti-gravity and this one. So this one is more for end-to-end. Anti-gravity is more for really deep software engineers. That's more for FDEs and so on. All right, so there we go. We got a dashboard. It's still not having data. Probably it's going to come in our table with all the filters that we saw, and it's going to get better and better as Replit is already working on it. I think my prompt of use too much blue was too much there for it. There we go. One total execution, one prompt shot. That's the world of building software. So we build this. It says one successful execution. There is only one execution. But the part that I'm really fascinated about this is here. I have all this data that was sitting in there. I want to enhance this a little bit further. Even it still works, but it's functional. I can see this. I can open it in a new tab by clicking that link. I can deploy it. It's already deployed. I can send this link to my colleagues. So if I build an application that goes like that much detail on whatever I build, this is just an example of a dashboard that I built for my n8n workflow. And let's go and open our n8n. Which one was it? The one that's running in my local host. This is not the one. This is not that one. Here, this one. This is running on my local host, right? Now I'm intentionally running this workflow one more time, and then I go to the Replit outcome. Where was the Replits? Here. Not that one.
I think it says Enterprise Dashboard Replit.
This one, yes. You can see here, it already reflected that change. So now two are successful, and I see the graph and so on. Now I'm interested in a few more things. I'm interested in, let me quickly pull it like this so that I can use my shortcuts. It's faster. Now I want to do certain things. For example, let's go back to that error. I want to get something, get some numbers in here, and I know it's going to fail and it's going to generate an error. Now if I go here on this Replit version, and if I refresh, since it's already in the database, in the Supabase, it's going to give me one error among the two others that has successfully ran. There we go. So one failed, two succeeded, but there's a lot of cool data here that I can use and do things. For example, in this error one, I want to see, when I click it, I want to see what happens. So here, the error message is already there. This data is something that I can open as a drawer and things like that. Let's build those two features, and then we'll call it a day. It's still executing some stuff. This is another cool thing. Like right now, it is testing it by itself. It mounted a virtual browser. It is clicking things around, and it's seeing it with its virtual eyes, and it's observing things, and it's creating or fixing its own ways in it. So it's pretty awesome how Replit grew from this simple code pen alternative into something that now it's changing the way enterprises work, especially with this new concept of citizen developer, that organizations can have these units or these FDEs that can go and build tools at light speed and then build things much faster. So I have those 2 features in mind that we will build. That's absolutely optional. I will prioritize questions more than anything else. So there are 9 people watching there, 1 person on this Google Meet call. I can also share this Google Meet call in the chat so that you guys can also join and ask questions on the microphone, and also the room. So just to be respectful of people who came in the snow all the way in a city near to Berlin. By show of hands, who came from Berlin? Oh, wow. At least I can give you guys a lift back home with my car, so please do ask me if you want to. So, any questions before we go in and tune those 2 little features that we talked about? Yes.
So for a long time you showed us this automation tool, and somehow I might have missed it, but I failed to see the AI angle to all of that. I mean, of course, you can then use it down the line to choose some AI coding agent like Replit or whatever to make use of that downstream. But is there any AI angle to n8n in itself?
Yes, I can quickly demo that, and maybe we anyways need some n8n workflows and so on in there. So n8n comes with this basically blue n8n, this one feature blue n8n. n8n has a I'm just gonna go directly to that node. It's called AI agent node, and an AI agent node can get a model, and I have OpenAI. I'm going to put OpenAI Chat GPT 4.1 mini. It can have something happen in Replit. That's a cool thing about Replit. It lets you know that something happened or I'm done with my task. We'll go and check that in just a minute to show you how cool this AI agent node is. It can have tools, and you can have multiple tools attached to it. So for example, I want to attach my Gmail. And if I attach my Gmail, I want to create a draft node. I want to let the LLM decide what's the subject and what's the message. And I just build myself an n8n AI agent node that can have access to my inbox, and it can create draft emails like this. Can you create a draft email to Christian and mention that we should do more Replit sessions? And it's right now accessing the LLM. It has access to the tool, and it just literally now created a draft email in my inbox that looks like this. So as you can see here, 8:12, 8:13, and it created this little email that's so contextual. So all the API calls, all the API tool calling and everything happened behind the scenes. But as you saw, I just drag and dropped a few little nodes
so the
in
AI
there.
agents are kind of nodes in the whole thing, but there's no kind of, it's not like an AI is kind of governing the whole thing.
Right.
There is the plugin is
yes, there is this build with AI feature that can govern the whole thing. For example, the same thing that I created with clicks, now I will create it with vibe coding. So it's vibe coding,
right,
and n8n.
Right? It's not like once you deployed it, it's not like it's one big AI agent.
Right.
No,
Yes, it's basically a tool to create AI agents. Yeah. It's not an AI agent by itself. So I can do this. Can you please create an AI agent node that has a chat and a Gmail draft email tool attached to it? But now it's taking over. Right now, the n8n workflow is being created by the AI agent running inside n8n platform. So n8n is basically taking over, since it's an AI coding agent that has access to all the documentation of n8n, and it has all the knowledge about n8n and thousands of n8n workflows knowledge. It is on the fly creating the n8n workflow that I created earlier, showing like this draft email. And this is a very new feature coming up to the, right now I'm running it on the cloud, n8n cloud, but it's coming up very soon to the community node, or at least by the end of this quarter, we can see this coming up. Even it did one extra step, it added this simple memory node that you can see here. So it remembers things when I chat with this AI agent node. There you go.
So could we have started in Replit and just told Replit to build the whole thing, including the n8n workflow?
Correct, but that is Replit do not have access to our n8n instance. You could do that. You could get your API keys from n8n, put it on Replit, but it's like not eating your meal like this and then eating it like this. So I would recommend building your n8n workflows in n8n, building front ends for it on Replit. But if you ask Replit to build n8n workflows, I would prefer, instead of that, going either this way, or if you're self-hosting, then going to Claude Code and then generating your JSON for n8n there and then copy pasting it here. Because this thing, if I copy this entire thing and I go to my code editor, it's just a JSON. It's a JSON, and this JSON can be generated by any LLM out there. Because n8n is so famous, it had a lot of text, a lot of articles, and so on. So the LLMs, when they scraped all the world, they also scraped a lot of knowledge about n8n, and now they know how n8n JSONs look like, and they can generate these JSONs. And then,
I mean, if I want to build a whole application that consists of this backend part, data stuff in n8n, and a front end, would it be more kind of holistic to just tell my coding agent to build the whole thing? And wouldn't there be any synergies because it makes decisions that combine decisions in the front end and the back end and should be made by the same coding agent?
That's a very good perspective on that. I would suggest using something like OpenClaw for that, because then it sits on your operating system level, and then it has access to the front end of n8n, and it has access to the front end of Replit, and then it can take screenshots and it can see it, and then it has like this holistic view. And you're right about that. That if we give the 360-degree view to the AI agent, another AI agent that builds these two interfaces, this reduces the human interaction between these UI interfaces, and it will reduce the number of errors. Yeah, very good perspective.
I have one question.
Please.
Which AI does n8n use to build the things? Does it have its own model, or does it?
Good question. I don't know exactly which model they are using behind the scenes, but I believe it should be Anthropic's Claude Code, but I can ask the product team at n8n.
You can't choose the model.
Right now, you can't choose a model. But by the end of this quarter, there will be a community update where it will be announced what will be the approach to opening it to the community, community version. That means then you can put like your own API keys, and then you can choose whatever API key you can put. Since this is a very new feature in n8n, they want to keep it closed so that they can control the quality of it. All right, so I would like to pick one of the two features that I have thought about, like one that I want to see this entire JSON, second one that I want to add a column that has an open link, and if I click it, it goes directly to this thing. So let's quickly go there. So I have this particular UI, and it has this URL. What you're going to see now is pretty much, I hope somebody's not going to cut this clip from this and then make a meme out of this. It's because the URL I have is this. Look, it has this local host on it. It's not going to work as soon as I close my computer, but once you deploy your n8n instance on a server, then this base URL is going to change. But it's just an educational content. I'm going to just use this to make the point so that you can see how easy and how fast it is when you come to creating like these vibe-coded platforms. So any questions so far until my computer stops thinking? There you go. No questions? Then my computer's let me work. Oh, I see. It's on battery, and then it makes sense that it's prioritizing something else, and then clicks. Alrighty, so we go to Replit, and then we ask Replit one question. We say, "This is the URL. That's the two things. Can you add a column I have to teach it that this is the workflow ID, and 2 is the execution ID. I want to be able to open each workflow from the table. So it's literally talking to the AI agent, and just you need to know these little nuances of how to ask and what to ask, and that's what I will be covering in my new crash course. Again, I'm not selling anything. It's 100% free. It's for that 16-year-old. How old are you?
15. I'm turning
Wonderful.
16, so
I'm so glad that someone at that age that I started coding when I was 16 years old. If you go to the About page of my website is on. I need to stop using that shortcut key, otherwise it's gonna dead. So I started coding like really early on in my life, so 15, 16 years old. So I was exposed to computer education, and I want a lot of, especially with this AI building thing, I want to inspire a lot of 16 years old, because the new world in front of them are totally a different world. Anyone has USB-C charger that can help me with this laptop? Yeah, so that we can make sure that I don't run out of battery fast. All right, so let's quickly see what's Replit doing now. It is already running, and there you go. It created this open link. If I click on that one item, it goes exactly on that particular n8n workflow. So the power of such a thing, thank you, is so much that you already can see that I was giving a presentation, explaining and building. But if a team sits behind such a thing, a team of, let's say, 3-4 people, super lean and clean team, and keep building such a platform, it will literally eliminate the need for having Grafana in your organization if you're using Grafana only for your n8n instance, or for the matter of fact, for any sort of data set that you have. And really, really large organizations are now facing this this famous code, or facing a challenge to run their SaaS companies. That Satya Nadella said SaaS is dead. He said this in the year 2024, December of 22nd of December 2024. Satya Nadella said SaaS is dead, and SaaS, Satya Nadella is the CEO of Microsoft, and Microsoft is a SaaS company, and they're so bold leaders out there in North America. Like, they say SaaS is dead and they're a SaaS company, but what they mean is like, well, the new world is AI, agentic world, and let's build agents. And now big companies are reducing their SaaS cost by building the SaaS for them. As Tim is also this builder who builds n8n, and I don't know if you use n8n, but you use Replit a lot. There's this full stack applications for companies, and that's going to be the new norm.
I think at least it was my understanding. Understanding was rather that he says we don't need UIs, which are SaaS in a way, right? But rather we can just chat with the application, or in the way the agent, and that's also a message, right? That we need less UIs to interact with it, but mainly to visualize it, for example.
Right.
And the interaction would be
absolutely
with the chat, for example.
We were having exactly a similar conversation earlier, that if you build a UI, why do you need that UI in the first place? The UI is there for mostly for the basically for the humans. If it's an agent to agent, you don't need the UI. You need just an MCP interface, and those MCP interfaces are going to take care of the rest of them. Yeah,
even,
so
even MCP is now not necessary, right? That's also a trend that we just need skills, right?
Yeah.
So because the MCP context just floods the LLM, right? With unnecessary. Yeah.
Yeah, the whatever protocols comes after that, A2A or skills or prompt whatever it comes, it's gonna be the new way of two agents talking to each other, and whatever protocol that under the hood they can talk to each other is going to dominate the whole world of building software. We don't need an interface where you can see things and click things, because the agents can see things differently. Maybe they just communicate in JSON and everything is done. So with that, I conclude the talk. Thank you so much for your attention. If you guys don't have any questions, we can go to the networking session. Otherwise, we can entertain some questions.
Yeah, I have a question.
Yes,
I do have. Sorry.
Sure. Wait. There's one in the room, and then we'll come to you. Okay.
You can go first if you want. It's okay. I can wait.
Sure. Please go ahead.
Yeah, when vibe coding apps, for example, I was wondering more of how can we make them more secure? Because I've made many MVPs with anti-gravity, for example, and I always wonder, since from coming from a no-code background or very little code background, how do we make sure our apps are secure?
If you are coming from a totally no coding background, making your apps secure is a very, very tough road to pass if you're using anti-gravity or cursor or whatever. But what I like about Replit, I'm evangelizing Replit for free. You're a business angel. So when you do this, and I think it's going to come to all coding agents, regardless of their nature, be it on your system or on this. But look what happens. If I click on publish, what happens is it's going to publish this, and there's in the pipeline of publishing, there's one stage where the security check-in happens. So the agent itself is checking for all the security. So here you can see security scanner is running, and it's checking for all security issues if this app has. If it has it, then it fixes it on the fly. But 2 cents, try to give the prompt always to the agent. Say that, can you please double check everything you've written if it's secure enough? A few things that I already trained in my last crash course that I showed in the start of this session 9 months ago, which I will also bring it forward to this new tutorial series that I'm making soon, is a few very principal concepts. Like go to ChatGPT, ask ChatGPT that, hey, I'm a vibe coder, I'm a no coder, list down a list of 100 acronyms, topics that I should learn, and give me a short description of that. Try to understand that. It will open your mind a lot around web development or mobile app development or whatever development that you're vibe coding. And also ask always the AI agent and learn the basics of command line. Like this is something that will never get old. I am 24 years on this interface. It never changed. The only thing changed was these colors, like blue colors, that Apple icon and saying. But everything else I'm doing here is so fast and I like it. It's this thing. If you learn this, you learn Git, you learn those core concepts, you're the best vibe coder in the world. Yeah. Marcos, where are you online from and what's your question?
Yeah, thanks, Aemal. I'm from Buenos Aires, Argentina. And yeah, my question is based on the example. You're running n8n locally. And any reason why you didn't use the data tables, which are native n8n?
Very good question. Yeah.
It was just for a matter of scalability, or?
Good question. Very good question. There's a feature in n8n called data tables. And the question goes like, why did I not use data tables and I use Supabase? The main reason is that Supabase is publicly available, and this particular AI agent have access to it. I didn't want to overcomplicate it by bringing in data tables and then create an API in front of it and then do all the CRUD operations that would bloat this 1 hour session, which turned out to be 90 minutes, into like, I don't know, 3 hour session. So that's one reason. The other reason is that n8n is pretty much not so much scalable. n8n data tables is not scalable for very, how do you call it, for very data intensive approaches. Like logging is really data intensive. So I would recommend using something like Supabase in that instance. I hope that answers the question.
And yeah, I'm sorry. Second one, it was related to the error workflow. Do you think it was a good tool as well to add it to the dashboard? Like saying, okay, I will store all the executions, but if I happen to have any error workflow, which was triggered by an error, maybe also show it in the dashboard.
Another good question. I think we should start talking about how can you help us at Avenai. So the question is how I generated an error in here like manually. Is this my local instance? Yes, it is my local instance. So I added this thing here where I basically created some error. But there's another approach to this that you can create an error, stop an error. And the question is, why did I not use this one? Very valid question. The reason is because I already had an error. But this is the true way of error handling. I didn't want to teach error handling in this session. I just had an error and I want to execute it and then get that error so that I can go to the dashboard and then see that, okay, that number of executions are increasing from 3 to 4. Now we have 2 failed errors and I can see all the data and I can go to that particular error and see all the data of this and also open that particular error that happened in that frozen time. So no specific reason. It was just that I want to skip some time and make it short and sweet.
Okay, makes sense. Thank you.
Yes, there is a question. You're welcome. There's a question in the room.
If you have like a couple of workflows ready, so a couple of features you have built, how do you bolt it together with Replit? So any recommendations how to get the context of all these workflows? So kind of the back-end context into Replit. How do you do that? Do you just copy the JSONs or what's your...
So the JSON is already stored here. This was the second feature I want to ask the workflow data and the execution data. So I will quickly spin off a prompt to Replit and let it generate, and I'll answer your question about that. Can you please take those 2 columns called execution data and workflow data and create a JSON viewer that I can open as a drawer menu, drawer, and see the JSON in detail. Use a nice code viewer with code line numbers. I even don't need to spend time to find out which an NPM package is a good one for that, but I just let it go, and I'll answer your question on which n8n workflows that I do. So this approach is pretty much enterprise ready because it literally takes every single thing that goes through this object, this object, and then once it spins off that. Meanwhile that the n8n is Replit is generating that, I will take you to Supabase and I will show you the JSON that is captured, which we'll see it in Supabase very soon, similar to this particular one. Very soon to this. So this JSON data contains almost every single piece of information that I have. This particular n8n workflow add only 2 nodes, so this JSON is like that much. But in a real world example, when I have like an n8n workflow that spans across 20 nodes and there are multiple routes and very complex use cases, this JSON will explode in number of lines. Right now it's like 106 lines of JSON code or JSON object. It will be 1,000. And the observability, the lens of this dashboard that we create will become even more interesting to see. For example, right now, this coding AI agent already thought about something that I'm going to put the recent errors in this bottom right corner. I just asked, like, create a dashboard for my data. It saw the data, it saw the schema, it created this little corner, which is very interesting for me. I can see my recent errors that happen on my workflows. I can ask it to put an open button in there so that I can click it and then it goes open, but I don't need to do it as I already did it here, and you guys know how to prompt it. And this is what I ask for. Like I said, show me the JSON data, and there you go. I can see that entire JSON data in here that sits inside my web application for my observability, and even it put that copy button that I didn't ask for. This is interesting. I was watching the Lex Friedman's episode with OpenClaw's founder, and he said, like, I send this voice message to OpenClaw's first versions, and it responded back to me, and I realized I didn't build this feature. And I asked, how did you do it? And it say, like, well, I opened this file. I didn't know it. I opened the header of this, and I saw that it's a voice file. And then I had your OpenAI key. I created an HTTP request. I attached this file and asked OpenAI to transcribe it for me. And then I got to know what he wants to say in the voice clip. So that's how OpenClaw got 180,000 GitHub stars. And that's how these coding AI agents are becoming so cool, because I didn't ask for this copy button, and it proactively added it. And it's very, very common use case of these kind of UIs, that when you open, there is something. Or for example, this line numbers, I didn't ask for it, it just put it there. And that's the future of product development. It's going to change the way people build software. And these two combinations, n8n and Replit, coming together makes the best choice of any forward deployed engineer, or these so-called citizen engineers. Citizen developers.
Yeah,
Yes.
so I want to push back a little bit on your earlier answer, because if we think of AI first, then I don't even see why we would build the backend at all in a different way than just asking Claude Code or GitHub Copilot or Replit to just build the backend for the app that I want, just like it builds the front end. And I have a whole repository. You can test the whole thing in one go. It's easier to debug. If I have a strange issue, I can just tell it the issue. I don't have to decide first, is this an n8n issue or is it a front end issue, and then go to the other place. I can just have one kind of face to the customer, which is my coding agent. Just does everything for me.
Yeah.
Why not?
Because it works in smaller companies. In larger companies, it doesn't. For example, if you're bringing in this culture of only one AI agent build both front end and back end, so in that world, you don't have this drag and drop low code, no code power. It's still a human.
You can still tell it to build an n8n workflow that I can then
Definitely, you can do that. I mean, you can vibe code both front end and back end. No argument on that. Yes, you can do that. Any other questions?
I want to go back to your answer, because we were about to say that you actually want the drag and dropness, because that's what enterprises like. Is that what you've been hearing?
Oh, no. I want, maybe I can complete my thought process on that. So the drag and drop feature that I was talking about, this low code, no code, it brings a pretty much democratic way of automating things. So if I bring, let's say, Replit to any department and I tell them that automate your stuff, it's a pretty open-handed vertical, that a landscape that they could go wrong. They're not developers. Using Replit-like coding AI agents to automate and connect to your existing systems does not give you enough governance. It's pretty much Wild West, and it can do things in a wrong way. Like OpenClaw, for example. You don't want to run OpenClaw on your computer in the office. It's so dangerous. And with n8n, you have more governance and more reliability, because you can put like checks and validations on every single layer. For example, I showed the pre-execution event that's triggering. You can put like an LLM as a judge in your CI/CD pipeline. You can read all the things that are happening there, and if it's against your ISO certification in your organization, then you can decline it. But if you put that kind of a layer inside an LLM generating code, good luck with that. Yeah. Yes?
I would be interested in your opinion, what you mentioned SaaS is that, like, what do you think are pros and cons to build custom application instead of using a SaaS product like Grafana, for example, which has beginning much more capabilities, and also I would see maybe a disadvantage, like if you want to further develop your custom application, it might get that complex that you cannot handle the complexity anymore with AI, for example. For example, in Grafana, you have custom query languages, and you can have like a UI builder and things like that.
Dashboard builder.
What's your opinion on this?
That's a very good question. Like your question is like, when is the right time to decide which software should I replace with a vibe coded software? In this particular case, being Grafana. I think the business units of an organization will decide that, hey, we don't need this 95% features of this software that we pay thousands or tens of thousands of dollars or euros per month, and we only need these 5% of this. And these center of excellences and these departments built only for building these kind of like very forward thinking and forward deployed engineers build these tools will replace and reduce a lot of costs on their license fees that they pay for Grafana, for example. Yeah.
Now there are also examples where this had a bad outcome because, like, for example, what I also just read yesterday is there seems to be a wave of open source projects dying because everybody builds their own projects. Nobody will use asset libraries, for example.
Yes.
If the AI builds everything from scratch, right?
Yes.
Interesting trend.
Absolutely, it's fascinating time to be alive and build in public. Wonderful. Thank you so much, everyone, for your attention. And those folks online from around the world, 8 people watching is still online. That means 8 people. And on Google, 2 people. Hi, Robert. Robert is the Zurich n8n ambassador. Also joined. I was in Zurich last Wednesday. Where were you, brother?
Thank you so much, Aemal.
Thank you.
Really great. From Werder to the world.
Thank you.
I was in Rio. Sorry, man.
No problem, Robert. We couldn't hear you. Anyways, thank you so much, guys. I will stick for a little bit longer, but I have an hour-long drive in front of me going back home. And tomorrow I have to go to Frankfurt and deliver this workshop, n8n workshop, that I do on a weekly basis. So therefore, I have to leave this room as soon as I can, like maybe 10-15 minutes, and then I'll be gone. So grab me, ask a question, or say hi. Thank you so much. Bye. Bye, everyone online. Bye-bye.